Good morning. We're going to continue doing some review/intro to Unit 3A, which is graphing linear functions. And we're going to focus on graphing linear equations using a table today. The reason we're going to do this is because there are shortcuts to graph almost every type of function, but you can always use a table. So if you ever forget any of the methods that we teach you, start plugging in points. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a table and pick x values to plug in and find the y values. And then once you have a table completed, you're going to plot the ordered pairs on the graph and then draw the line or the curve to connect them. So let's just go ahead and do some right away. Okay, and today we're going to focus on linear equations, and this will be the whole unit will be linear equations. So our first equation is y equals negative 2x minus 1. Some of you might remember the shortcut here. I'm not going to say anything about it, but I'm going to show you how to use a table. Typically, I like to use basic numbers, easy numbers to plug in. So I'm going to plug in negative 1, 0, and 1 because those are pretty easy to calculate. If there's a fraction there, that'll change slightly, but since there's no fraction, we're going to go ahead and go with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this negative 1 and plug it in for my x up here. So I'm going to do negative 2 times negative 1 minus 1. I can go ahead and type this in my calculator, negative 2 parentheses negative 1 parentheses minus 1, and I end up getting 1 for an answer. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with my 0. I'm going to plug in 0, negative 2 times 0 minus 1. I'm going to type this into my calculator, negative 2 parentheses 0 parentheses minus 1, and I should get negative 1 for an answer. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with positive 1. I'm going to do negative 2 times positive 1 minus 1. I'm going to plug that into my calculator, and when I type that in, I end up getting negative 3. Okay, so now I have 3 ordered pairs that I can plot on my graph. Negative 1, 1, 0, negative 1, and 1, negative 3. Okay, notice those 3 points actually make a nice straight line that I can connect. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line in here. Go through it really well. Okay, so there's my line. A key here, though, is because we have a line, it actually goes on forever. So we need to make sure we put arrows at the end. So let's go ahead and add those. I'm going to put my arrows there. Arrow at one end. Arrow at the other end. Okay, so do not forget to draw your arrows in. Okay, and once I've done that, I have my graph of my linear equation. It moved a little bit. Okay, try to go through the points as best as you can. Okay, so there's my linear equation, and I'm done. Okay, if you need help with that or aren't sure where I got some of the information, please hit pause right now and raise your hand so I can come help you out. If you are okay with that, go ahead and look at the next problem. So notice here we actually have a fraction in this problem. So I could still pick negative 1, 0, and 1 to plug in, but because I have a fraction, those are going to end up possibly giving me a fraction for an answer. Not always the easiest to graph. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this denominator here, and I'm going to use that. So instead of doing negative 1, I'm going to do negative 4. Still like to do 0, and then I'm going to also do positive 4. Okay, so I'm going to plug in negative 4, 0, and positive 4. So if I plug in negative 4, and I have 1/4, parentheses negative 4, minus 4. Remember, this fraction is just entered as a division problem. So 1 divided by 4, and then parentheses negative 4, minus 4 gives you negative 5 for an answer. I'm going to do the same thing with 0. 1 divided by 4 times 0 minus 4. I'm going to type that in my calculator and get negative 4 for an answer. Okay, last one, plug in positive 4. So 1 divided by 4 times positive 4 minus 4 actually gives me negative 3. Okay, so pause, check that, make sure you get those answers in your calculator. It's possible I made a mistake. And if you're okay with it, we're going to go ahead and plot that. So I'm going to do negative 4, negative 5. Okay, so my point there. I'm going to do 0, negative 4. I'm going to do 4, negative 3. Okay, and notice that those appear to make a nice straight line. So we're going to go ahead and draw our line through there. and hit those points. And then make sure you put arrows at the end. I'm just going to go ahead and draw those in because it's faster. Okay, so there is my line. Okay, again, if you have any questions or aren't sure, hit pause, raise your hand, I will come help you out. Okay, so biggest thing to remember for this one is I had a 4 in the bottom of my fraction. That is where my -4 and +4 come from. If I go back to the previous problem, there wasn't a fraction, so that's why I use -1 and 1. Okay. Here there are two special cases. For example, 3. I can make a table here. But this first equation, what it tells me is if I do -1, 0, and 1, since there aren't any fractions, no matter what my x is, my y is always 4. So I actually end up with a line like that. Okay, so my y is always 4, it's never going to change. So -1, 4, 0, 4, 1, 4. Notice I have a nice horizontal line there. Draw that in and put my arrows at the end. Okay, so if I have x equals, and I ended up with a horizontal line, if I had y equals and ended up with a horizontal line, if I have x equals, that means no matter what, my x can only be 1. And it doesn't matter what my y values are. So it kind of flips places. So now I'm going to have 0, so 1, -1, 1, 0, 1, 1. Okay, so notice that flipped to a vertical line. Okay, so again, if you have any questions on any of these, please pause the video, raise your hand, ask some questions. Let me know if you need any help. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Try these next 4 problems here. Graph them. Once you are finished, have them checked, and then you can get some practice on your own for your homework. Like I said, pause if you have any questions, raise your hand if you have any questions, and I'll come to you. Just to kind of recap, today we graphed linear equations using a table. Tomorrow we're going to start looking at the targets for this unit. We're going to identify key features of linear equations from a graph, and then your homework is to graph linear equations with a table. Have a great day.